Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. So, Isaac, could you start us off? What is imposter syndrome?
I actually pulled up a definition just to start with because I have a ton of experiences with imposter syndrome and people who have had experiences. But when people ask me to explain precisely what it is, I was like, well, here's all the things that you do. So I figured I'd pull up an actual definition. So the actual definition I have here is the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So
You didn't feel like you had a legitimate enough explanation off the top of your head.
Exactly. Yeah. So this topic I've actually given a talk on at a company before, because I had a lot of conversations with people and realized that we all had some shared experiences around imposter syndrome. And at the time, I felt it would be useful to tell about my experiences as a way that was kind of a cathartic way for me to get over it, or get past it, and as a way to also share the experience in case other people also felt that way. And there was some success in sharing those stories because I would have people come up after and say, "Hey, I just started at the company. It was really nice to hear your speech about that because I was feeling the same way." And how they were usually feeling is they're extended an offer to a company. They nailed the interview, but internally they're like, "Oh, well, maybe I tricked them or something." Because maybe I'm not really deserving of this. Because once they get and see all the company stuff, they're at the big time company now. They earn a lot more money than they did right out of college. It's like you're in the post college, maybe early startup phase, and there's a lot of venture capital, and the salaries are a little higher. And you see all this, and you're like, "Whoa, I'm not. I just came out of college, and I'm not that good." And you look and see the code base, and you see a lot of complicated code that you're probably not used to, because every company's got their own, code that's very unique to them. But also, you're coming
you don't have
from
the context that really complicated, complex code is probably bad.
Right. And so like this is kind of like what we're talking about in earlier episodes, like coming from an academic background. You're taught to build things a certain way, and then you're kind of trained on that way. Like, here's how to normalize a database, or here's how to, I usually don't have one on refactoring code or anything, but here's how to like clean up code, or here's how to make brand new code. Here's an assignment, go do that. And in the real world, no one cares about normalizing your database until it becomes a bottleneck, or there's a reason to. No one cares about like going through and cleaning up code or properly using inheritance unless there's a reason to. Like, they give you a new feature and say, work on this, and then you see a bunch of entangled code. You realize none of the code you're looking at are remotely similar to the examples you were given in an academic setting, because they're trying to give you good practices, and they don't teach you about how here's all the bad code you're actually going to experience. And then you go, whoa, wait a minute. I know the interview, but I have no idea what I'm doing here. Did I trick them somehow into thinking I'm better than I am? Do I actually deserve this job? So you have a lot of self-doubt. And that's the primary kind of factor that's in a lot of the conversations around imposter syndrome, is like doubting that you should be where you are.
Okay. Totally understandable. So if you get a new job, or you come to a new company, or you've got this new promotion, and now you're like, oh, do I really, like, am I really good enough? Right? I'm not Linux Torvalds. I'm not invent Linux right here and write my own compilers. Am I good enough to be a programmer? And so how do you start getting, like, is acknowledging it the first step that you should, or do you look for ways to quantify?
Yeah, well, I guess I've never thought about like steps, like here's the 5-step process. I know we like doing this in the show.
Five-step process
to get over imposter syndrome. Very buzzword, almost like a clickbait kind of
YouTube
video.
Isaac's 5-step process to get over imposter syndrome.
But I think,
are you good enough to take them?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the first step, maybe, or one of the steps, is kind of acknowledging that you might have it, or talking about it. The worst thing you can do is just be quiet, because like some people are like, well, I don't want to ask questions because then it will become very apparent that I don't know how to do what I'm supposed to know how to do. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I ask, how do I work on this, or it's a stupid question and it's something I feel like I should have learned in college, but I don't know how to do, they're going to look at me and go, why are they here? Like, who is this guy? You know, like they should already know this particular format that we're saving stuff in, or they should know this standard. This is like basic stuff. And
How do
half
you
the
not have the
time,
whole HTTP spec memorized?
yeah,
You just got out of college. It's only like 1,000 pages.
right. So there's that's an invisible and kind of like often imaginary enemy that you
Mm-hmm.
have, is like your own thoughts on, if I ask questions, what could happen. And
Right. What will
I
people
had
think
at
of
the
me?
time I had a fair amount of anxiety because I was trying to make a good impression. One of my first companies outside of college, I was trying to make a good impression. I didn't know some of the code. I didn't want to ask questions because it would look like I was not smart enough to figure it out on my own. And I literally had like this kind of nightmare situation where I was like, I honestly felt like if I asked too many dumb questions, they'd be like, "We made a mistake. We're gonna fire this guy." And that was like truly what I believed because I was young. I did not know anything about enterprise level software, or like
Mm-hmm.
you know, or I never worked with a team that big. So there was a lot of fear there, and I think in retrospect, the biggest thing that I ever did was make friends at the company who are
Mm-hmm.
also not just people that who were just started, but people who've been there a long time that were just like nice and understanding people. Make friends, and then just say, "Hey, I'm feeling a little nervous because I feel like I'm not going to deliver because I don't know if I'm right for this. You know, can you help me out?" Asking for help is like counterintuitive because you don't want to, but it's the biggest way to actually start
To learn.
learning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't. I didn't have that going in. Like I didn't have the fear. But what I have noticed, or I have learned, especially as I've gotten more senior, is as a more senior developer, especially if I'm the most senior developer in the room, it's my responsibility to ask the dumb questions because other developers won't. So if I to be an advocate or just to be a good leader, if I suspect people don't understand, or if I don't understand, but I know I can figure it out, if it's a meeting, it's a great time to ask someone because then you get to ask all the stupid questions in the room, which one gives everybody permission to not
Yeah.
understand, and two, it asks for them, and three, it often reveals an answer that you didn't expect when it's like, oh,
Mhm.
I didn't understand that, or I did and the other person didn't, and this was going to be a problem. Equally possible.
I find that to be really kind. I think knowing that if you ask a question, or other people might be too scared to ask a question, and going ahead and asking a question for them for that, like that's just a very kind thing to do for someone. In fact, that reminds me of, I think I was like poking fun at my friend like in middle school or something because we learned something in a math lesson, and
Mm-hmm.
he asked the question again. And I knew he knew the answer, but he asked the question from the teacher, and I was like, "What? You already know the answer to that. Why are you asking?" And he's like, "Well, my friend, I don't think he understands, and I'm trying to do that. That way, she'll describe it again." And I was like, "Oh, that's really,
Yeah.
really just a kind gesture." So I appreciate that that kind of thing. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about it, making friends who can help you in a less public setting.
Hmm.
Uh, good. So how do you? So you get over, or helps you get over that first initial thing, right? So now you have the job, you don't get fired in the first 6 months,
Hmm.
which is ipso facto proof that you're good enough,
Right.
at least in the U.S. Uh, that obviously that doesn't solve the problem, right? Then because
Yeah.
it's the nagging persistent in the back of your head. So once you're over the initial, right, you're into the code base, you're making reasonable contributions. They haven't fired you, they haven't put you on a pip.
Hmm.
Uh, so external evidence is showing that you are at least good enough
Right.
just to keep the job. How do you now silence the doubts? Because now there's some
Well,
evidence, but still the doubts come.
right. Well, you hit on something important there, and that it's like now you have that history. So
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like an exposure therapy kind of thing, where now that you keep coming to work every day, you continue to have a job every day.
Hmm.
You keep building new things, you keep learning things, asking questions. Over time, you build that experience. So you're right in that you can still have that kind of nagging feeling, but the more you end up showing to work and learning new things and working with people, the more confident you can be. And especially if like somebody suddenly comes to you and has a question for you and you can answer it for them. So I would
Hmm.
say try to mentor people too, even if you don't feel like you're good enough to mentor, which it can be very similar vein as imposter syndrome. But you could still look at people who just came into the company who are very fresh, who went through the same feelings that you went through, and then go, "Oh,
Hmm.
they're new here. I've only been here 6 months, but I can tell you this is how I got onboarded. These are the things that helped me feel like I was contributing and ramped up." And in doing that, you can actually, it's almost like once you can teach something to someone, you realize you've learned it yourself. So it helps kind of establish,
Right.
oh, I did learn a lot. I am doing good things here. I am helping this person who's new here feel comfortable, and now they're delivering.
Right. That almost sounds like, so the first proof that we talked about, the first thing that we were talking about, so it's the external validation of, well, I've got a job and they didn't fire me,
Hmm.
therefore they must think I'm good enough. Now you're saying, okay, now that you've got some history, you can start teaching others, and teaching is a proof that you actually understand. You can't teach what you don't understand.
Hmm.
And so that becomes, it's still an external proof because the proof is that somebody else understands what you're teaching them, but it
Yeah.
becomes a more internal proof. Like you, I didn't get fired as an external validation, right? They could always
Right.
turn around and fire you, and it wouldn't, there could be a layoff, and you're the new
Hmm.
person, so you got the heave ho out of no fault of your own. So it's a very external validation, but being able to teach someone, that's a much more internal thing because it's on you.
Yeah, I think so. And you can directly see the impact of your own interactions with the person that you're teaching. You get that feedback from them. Oh, this helped
Mm-hmm.
me. Thank you for that. Um, and again, you're doing that same inner. Anybody can tell you you're doing a great job. And a lot of times those kind of comments do bounce off people with imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You need to deliver it certain ways, and it needs to be a way that you can feel that the feedback is legit. It's not just somebody being nice. So like, building relationships with other people, like your own manager, and
Mm-hmm.
that having being able to trust their feedback. And when you hear, "Oh, you've improved a lot. This is exceptional code. This is an exceptional job you've done for this feature or whatnot." Getting that from your manager or getting it from the person that you're trying to onboard and help out of the company. Hey, thank you. I feel so much better every
Mm-hmm.
day. I was super nervous, and I just want to appreciate, I just want to tell you, I appreciate that I come to work now, and I don't feel as scared, and I enjoy pairing with you. That kind of feedback feels amazing, and it's much more like you do internalize that. You can it's a lot easier for you to work with that feedback and convince yourself, so to speak, than it is from
Mm-hmm.
just other people telling you niceties.
Could we go a little deeper into that? So what kind of
Mhm.
feedback, what makes feedback more valuable or less valuable in terms of fighting the imposter syndrome?
Whether or not you believe it. So that's what I mean
Mm.
by having some trust. uh, some people, just like in real life, if you imagine there's somebody right now that you hate or just do not respect, and they gave you a lot of
Okay.
really critical feedback about who you are or how you're doing in a job or whatnot, you're not really going to care. You're like, I don't know who you are. I don't respect your opinion. Who are you to tell me about my job? You don't know anything about the work that I do. After a while, those comments, you might shrug, you might like raise your eyebrow at that. If somebody you deeply respected who's in your same career and was a mentor to you gave you some critical feedback, that feedback would hit a lot harder, especially if it was
Mm.
like something you really needed to work on and you haven't done a good job with. You're like, I've let this person down. So finding people like that, step one, where you actually can go ask around, get help from people, build a community of other people, whether or not it's remote and you just like meet people via Slack, or you're in the office
Hmm.
and you meet new people there. Building that community of people and actually establishing trust with the people you mentor or your own managers is going to be key, because the deeper that relationship is, the more that feedback's going to hit, and you're going to believe them when they say, "I think you're doing a great job." It's not just going to be somebody saying that, like, who doesn't know who anything about your struggle. Like a brand new
Right.
manager coming in that you've met for 3 days saying you're doing great. You're going to be like, you don't know the work I've been working on, but somebody who's been there since day one says you've been doing exceptional. The growth I've seen since you've been at the company has been incredible. That's going to hit harder. You're going to believe that more.
Okay, so trust.
Mm-hmm.
What about specificity? So trust takes time to build.
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I've always read and heard is being more specific in your feedback makes it resonate more.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got somebody who's been mentoring you since you joined, they can say something like, "Oh, your improvement has been amazing. You're doing a great job." Whereas if I've known you for all of a day and I say you're doing great, that's meaningless. But if it's my first day as your manager and I say, "Hey, in today's meeting, I really loved how you decomposed that problem. That was excellent work." Would that help? Would very specific feedback like that help overcome the trust barrier?
That would help build the trust for sure. Like if someone can give
It would
you
build the trust.
specific feedback, you're like, oh, they paid attention. They read my MR or PR. They read through and saw, oh, this was much better than last week. And I see that you've done the feedback that I asked of you last week. I see you implemented it right here. Or the thing that you've built, I went ahead and QA'd it myself. And I noticed this flow is really smooth. If they can call out specific things, that means they actually cared enough to listen to exactly what you're doing or to watch what you're doing. So it's one thing if your manager says, oh, everyone is saying you're doing a great job. I've heard really good feedback from you. That is very generic. That's very abstract. Right. Other people have told me that. But it's another thing entirely if someone said, hey, I was watching, all your pipelines you were running last night when you were trying to optimize our pipelines. And I saw that we went from a 10-minute pipeline to a 3-minute pipeline due to your efforts. And that was awesome. I was watching you as you did it. And that is just incredible work. That's super specific. Mm-hmm. They're looking after you. They see that you've done something great and called it out. And that not only is good feedback, but it builds trust because next time wow, this is somebody who actually cares enough to not just like glean over the stuff I'm doing. They dug into it and saw that I'm doing good work. It's believable. Okay.
So we're saying trust is the key and specificity helps build the trust because it shows that you care, care enough to pay attention. So what else can you do to combat the imposter syndrome? So one thing that I don't think works from conversations I've had with other people, like it works very well for me, but it doesn't seem to work for imposter syndrome. Being able to speak to the results of your work. So I say controversial things like I don't care if the code is crap if it does the job really well. Thus, I don't have a problem with PHP. Where does being able to tie your work to the results, does that help with imposter syndrome? If I say, oh, I'm a senior, I've been promoted to be senior and I don't know that I'm actually that good of a programmer. But instead of pointing to the code and say, oh, this database isn't normalized correctly, it's not third form normalized, and this code here, some of my classes got entangled and it's not dry. Versus, hey, I wrote this code and our customers loved it and it helped them, increase their profitability 20%, and that created a viral spiral that resulted in a 30% increase in our onboarding rate, and the company's making millions of dollars thanks to my efforts. Wait a minute, why am I only a senior developer here?
Right. That's a really interesting question. It reminds me of previous topics about again, trying to separate business concerns from academic teachings, because you could be a really inexperienced developer and do incredibly powerful things at a company. You could go through and you could just be looking through the code base and find a bottleneck and not really know what the code's doing or why, and just go like, oh, how about we fix that? And then do something great. You could do a huge impact. Maybe the page loads in less than a second instead of 10 seconds. And all the customers are super happy. And you didn't have to know all of your learnings in academia to make that change. So it's an interesting concept, because if you kept getting promoted for doing things like that, and you're like, well, actually, I'm using a 100th of all the things I learned at school, so to speak, then you're like, huh.
So this could make it worse.
It could be confusing.
It could make it worse. It could be, I'm not, if you're having imposter syndrome about being a good developer,
Mhm.
right? You don't know that you really deserve to be a good developer, and you hit on business solutions to problems that are not particularly, you find non-technical, basic coding solutions
Exactly.
to problems that might you would feel you'd be praised, your company would promote you, but you might feel, oh well, this is just
Yeah.
basic crud work that I'm doing. It's nothing special. I shouldn't be a senior developer. I'm not a good enough developer to be a senior. Whereas the actual super senior developers are like, oh, great, your code is so simple, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly.
but I could see that valley of, oh, I'm being promoted because I've had successful business outcomes, and I'm not being promoted because I'm a successful programmer.
That, yeah, again, that's another facet to it, which can make it
Mm-hmm.
super complex, right? One thing I think I've had to learn in my career is that clean code doesn't necessarily matter in many cases if you solve the customer's problem. And that was super hard for me to unlearn, because someone could be like, Isaac, we want you to do a quick fix for this one particular customer. And I'd be like, oh, well, that's just adding another if statement for if customer ID equals that. And like, this is silly. This is sloppy code. But if you slap it on there and then you demo it later and you sign a contract with a customer because they're like, oh wow, you got this delivered so quickly, even though it was sloppy, is that bad? From a developer perspective, you're like, this is terrible. I've written terrible non-scalable code, non-clean code. From a business perspective, everyone loves that. Like, you landed a new contract because how quick you were to deliver that. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's definitely two different avenues where your inner developer, your inner experienced person's going, I'm judging myself for the lack of a clean answer. And then you're getting accolades from a business side. So you have to, a lot of that will just take time and experience to understand. You can still be a valuable employee without being a perfect, experienced, best developer. So you can
Mm.
still help out. So you should try to divorce this concept of being the best in my trade to being valuable to help your company grow.
Could that be an aspect of imposter syndrome that people are fighting, where even if you like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
keep my job and people are saying I'm doing a great job and I'm bringing in lots of business, but there's this tension now between, oh, well, yes, I'm good at my job and I deserve my job, but I'm still a
Mm-hmm.
terrible programmer,
Yeah,
which I guess could actually be true.
for sure. Yeah, and for me, this is one of those things where like I want to almost come up with an analogy here, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you're if you realize that about yourself, if you think, hey, I'm actually not a great developer, or you feel that and you're still doing well in your company, you can also look back on that history and go, oh well, I am getting good feedback that I'm solving company problems and I'm making an impact. That's great. They find me valuable, and there's still things I can work on in the programming side of things that I would like to be. So even though I've been given a title that I feel like I haven't grown into yet, that's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if we go in on Halloween and see kids wearing Batman masks, we don't go, "You're not Batman. That's stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you
I
wear a mask lying about who you are?" It's
feel
what
like
they
I've
want
seen
to
that in a
be.
sitcom with terrible people.
They're working towards being that image. They
Right.
admire that. If you put on a senior developer mask or you're given that title, that's what you're working towards. And people look at you, go, "Oh, that they're trying to be a senior developer, or they are a senior developer." Doesn't matter. All that matters is your own internal feelings about it. So if you get those accolades and you feel like you're not a good developer, that's okay. You can keep working on it. If you have a good enough relationship with your colleagues and a good environment in which you can ask questions and keep growing, people are still going to be really happy that you're delivering value, even if you don't know if you haven't read all the best programming books out there and know all the concepts everyone should know at that point in their career.
Okay. I guess that to summarize that, what you're saying is, if you have imposter syndrome, I guess separate it from, or at least try to separate, I have imposter syndrome, I don't deserve this job. That you can hopefully fix by keeping the job and by doing a good job and getting promoted. It may not help you with the I'm not a good developer imposter syndrome, because
Yeah.
there's not it's not a tightly coupled thing, right? Your job and your trade are not coupled as well as they should be. Similarly in a lot of creative trades, right? There are lots of
Yeah.
amazing artists who labor in obscurity, and then mediocre artists hit on something and become wildly famous and popular.
Right.
I feel like in the 80s, I always remember people like, oh, yes, all these pop stars, they're not really good singers. It's like, okay, but they're very good entertainers.
Right. And so we can be judgmental and say, and I've done this too with certain
Mm-hmm.
pop artists where I'm like, I do not understand why people like this artist, but clearly they're delivering value. Whether or not you
Right.
think they're, the most musically gifted person you've ever met, if they deliver value and they make people happy, you have to go back to yourself and be like, why are you angry at them? So uh, either way, it is a complex topic. It is. There's not an easy answer. Everyone's got, and people in general, they might have their own self-doubt regardless. They might have throughout their life just like been very critical of themselves and never really felt like they're doing, they're at their full potential, and that can actually merge in with the imposter syndrome part and make it even worse. So everyone's going to have different experiences with it. So I don't have an answer for it, but well, I guess the one answer I would have is like, just be vocal about what you're experiencing and find someone trusted you can share that with, and that way you can get it off your chest. It's cathartic for you. They can give you feedback. You trust their feedback, and over time, in my experience, over the years, those feelings get less and less. It's like, again, it's like an exposure therapy. The more you show up every day, honestly, ask those questions, get that good feedback, build those really valuable relationships with people, the more you're going to feel, or rather, the less you're going to feel like an imposter, the more you're going to feel like, okay, I am doing my job.
Sorry, I had a very biting, sarcastic comment, and I suppressed it, and then I lost my train of thought.
Well,
it was going to be funny, but it was also mean, so I didn't say it. So
thank you. I called you kind
like,
earlier, so
right? Yeah, no, I'm like, that inner monologue of like, that would be really funny, but also it's totally inappropriate, so I'm not going to say it now.
Well, thank you.
I've lost the train of thought. So we're saying, right, you get it off your chest, and it gets better over time. Is there a point where does it ever go away entirely? Like, you've been a developer for 12, 15 years? I don't remember. How long have you been working professionally?
Professionally, yeah, since 2013. So a good chunk of time, at least 10 years.
Like, do you still feel imposter syndrome? Like, wait, if you get a promotion, do you feel imposter syndrome until
I did recently? So it comes up still. It's like it's almost like saying, like, it's almost like depression or anxiety or other kind of feelings where you're like, it might go away and it might come back, and that's fine. That's life. There's not like a magic pill you can take to never feel like an imposter again. But I was recently, like last year, I was promoted to principal engineer at my current company, and during the one-on-one with my boss, who told me I had this title change, I literally just said, why? And he started laughing at me, and he's like, what do you mean, why? And I'm like, I know so many incredible principal engineers, and I feel like they're worlds ahead of me as far as not just experience, but just like wealth of knowledge, all these different languages, all the different architecture styles, and I'm like, principal almost feels like a slap in the face. All these other people are way better than me. Like, you can't call me the same thing as that person. And that's kind of what it felt like. And so I was reflecting on that, and I'm like, I wonder, when I asked him why, he's like, what do you mean why? Here's all the things you're doing. And he explained, here's so many facets of the business that I had learned in a year at that time. And I was able to pretty much any question someone had, I could answer it and work and just keep jumping in different code bases across different products. And I built a wealth of knowledge. So it's like, even if it's not a principal in a different company, at this company, I was delivering a lot of value. I was really helping out everybody, operations team, support team, my own boss, so he doesn't have to keep doing a lot of manual things he was doing. So if you're providing value, you still have to separate that from your own internal feelings of all these other people you've met who seem like they're better than you.
In principal engineer isn't even a primarily software developer role. Like, the higher up you go as at the principal level, you're not going to be as hands-on keyboard. So even if, yes, there's these other developers in their worlds better than you at developing, your job isn't primarily developing anymore. It's more about what to develop and why and how.
Right.
Yes, I once gave a talk about, do you want, because my company, The Jump, where senior developers are 100% coders,
Hmm.
that you code all day, all the time, and then you jump to the next level, which is staff, and your coding time drops to at least, no more than 50%. And so I gave a talk about that. Like, there is no shame in saying, I want to code all day and I don't want the next title, because the next title
Right.
means less coding.
Oh, for sure. And I've had this own conversation internally
Mm-hmm.
with like, do I want to manage one day? Do I want to flex that muscle to see if I'm a good manager? And if I do that, I'm not going to be coding really at all. And that's a hard conversation to have too. And in the end, I want to code some. But either way,
Yeah, manager
so
should
yeah,
be 0% coding.
I still end up feeling imposter syndrome from
Mm-hmm.
now and then, because like it's almost like asking you, do you ever doubt yourself? Well, of course,
Yeah,
and
I
that
doubt
doubt
myself.
is good sometimes. I do want to. This kind of segues nicely into the opposite problem, um, where if I didn't doubt myself at all, then I probably wouldn't learn from anybody. I probably wouldn't ask any questions. I would just kind of go straight forward into, this is the answer. I'm right all the time. I'm the greatest at what I do. Right. So
I've met
that's
those
the
developers.
right. So the opposite of imposter syndrome, or maybe not the opposite, but and the other another side of the spectrum, so to speak, is the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that definition pulled up too because I thought it was interesting. It's cognitive bias in which people with limited competence in a domain overestimate their abilities. So it's somebody who's not good at the job at all, but they're so confident in how they deliver all of their solutions, or in a meeting with everybody and everyone's nodding their heads and they're like, wow, you delivered that in such a way that you must know what you're talking about, but they have no clue what they're doing. And we've all met people, from engineers to politicians, that act this way. And there's like there's so many psychologies at play here, because a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
people want a leader, or they want someone to tell them what to do or what to work on, because they're like, I don't want to. It's not my job to figure this out. They got it figured out. And so sometimes we seek that out. We seek that kind of leadership out. But once we find out it's fake, we get angry. So we want to be told what to do by people who know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, I heard a wonderful quote one time, which was, part of what private school lets you do, or part of what private school teaches you, is how to bullshit and sound authoritative, how to sound authoritative and confident while you're bullshitting. So
Right.
one of the primary values of a private school education that public school will not
It's
teach you.
useful in certain trades too. Like if you're trying to sell something to somebody, even if, like, a lot of times, salespeople will promise things that have not yet been built. Sometimes it has
Mm-hmm.
been said that people might do that. But if you're really good job, if you do a really good job selling, oh, we're going to have that. Yeah, we're building this feature. And you're just like, you're so confident that, that we're going to solve your problem, that the other person goes, wow, I'm taken care of. That's super valuable. We find value in that in the society. We pay people a lot of money. We pay marketers a lot of money to make these messages and make people feel comfortable. Even if we can't deliver that promise at the time, we're still working on it in the background.
Oh, it's such bad selling. Don't be that salesperson.
Pardon?
I said, don't be that salesperson.
Oh no, I'm not a salesperson, but I'm just saying, conceptually, as a society,
Yeah,
we see that all the time.
excellent. So I guess before we wrap, let's go with the flip side.
Hmm.
What if you wanted to have more imposter syndrome? What could you do to make yourself doubt more?
Uh,
We gotta examine the flip side here. So we talked about how to get rid, or how to work against imposter syndrome. And I was reading, I'm totally blanking on the guy's name, but there was a American philosopher who was an amazing disaster planner, and
mhm.
he instead of asking himself, how do I prevent this disaster, he would say, how do I cause this disaster, so that he could then
Interesting.
implement the opposite. So one of his great quotes was like, if I wanted to kill a lot of pilots, how would I design an airplane? Right. And
That's an interesting thought exercise for sure.
so it's a good thought. So if I wanted to make imposter syndrome worse, what would I do?
Uh, Continue to be rewarded for things that seem trivial.
Okay, so reward people for trivial things.
uh,
Would changing jobs often? Like I'm wondering, because we
yeah,
talked a lot about trust,
yeah,
and I know in the modern, especially for programmers, nobody looks askance at changing jobs every year. But if you're suffering from imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
I encourage people to change jobs often because often that's the best way to get a promotion,
Hmm.
sadly. But if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, would that hurt you? Because now you've lost those long trusting relationships.
I'd say yeah. Maybe not even go so far as to say switch jobs often, but even just switching teams.
Mm.
You know, preventing somebody from growing that way would certainly make the problem worse. You keep every week they're on a brand new product team. They never get to be with their colleagues very often. Their manager changes, so their feedback changes, and they never really get to get a good foothold on what to do. This all sounds very evil, Jeffrey. Why are we doing this?
Because it's the opposite
The
for
inverse,
so that we
yeah.
can say, right, it's that you figure out what the bad would be so that you can advise people to do the good. Don't So we're saying if you're suffering from
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, work to keep yourself on the same team longer,
Yeah.
stay at your companies longer, right? So don't earlier in my career I was very strategic or tactical. I was a tactical quitter. I would, if I felt that I had reached the next level and I wasn't getting that promotion or raise that I felt I
Hmm.
was worth, I would find a new job that would pay that. And that, caused my career to move faster forward than people who stayed at the same job for 6, 7 years at a time.
Right.
But if you're being, disabled or fighting with imposter syndrome, that might make it worse, right? If you're like tactically quitting, like, hey, I'm going to go find another company that's going to pay me more, and you're
Hmm.
already worried that you're not worth what you're being paid or you're not really worth it, that would seem
Oh
pretty
yeah.
bad. That would,
Especially if you kept succeeding and getting higher and
right.
higher and higher titles, and you're like, I don't know what to do. But the crazy part is, there's been so many people who have done this. They've just bullshitted into all kinds of positions, but have no remorse. They don't have imposter syndrome. They're just like they just keep getting higher and higher degree titles, and that's like that. That's their play. But yeah,
Well, that's what
um,
I do, but I also feel like I bring the skills with it. Like I don't feel that I am
yeah,
getting hired and then not delivering.
right.
It's it's more of a mercenary career mindset where I don't trust the company necessarily to have my interest at heart, so I look for out for number one,
And you're
which,
number one.
well, I am the number one. I am the number one person in my career. Yes.
I believe
And you
that.
are the number one person in your career. And sadly, no one else is going to look out for you. And therefore, quit your job and get a better one at a higher salary. You deserve it. Tough love. No, don't do that. Especially if you have imposter syndrome. Don't do what I've done. It will probably make things worse.
Oh yes, on the line of making things worse. Yeah, not asking questions.
Yes. Mm.
We another one. Don't ask questions. Don't build a community. Just isolate. That'll make things worse for sure.
Right. Assume that other people actually understand and are are not asking questions because they understand is a terrible thing.
Hmm. All right. Have we gone through
I
the
think
topics
we've
that I
beaten it.
liked?
We're now around to we've closed the circle. We're now back to evil and having to remind people that we're talking evil to tell you what not to do, which
You
is
have to
always
know
dangerous
evil.
water.
That way you can appreciate good.
Yes, the yin and the yang, Eastern philosophy by people who have no idea what they're talking about. But we're saying it very well. So this is Dunning Kruger is a good way to leave.
All right. All right. We're done here.
uh, we're done. All right. Thank you for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.